They told you that God was out there, distant, on some throne high above the clouds. They told you that to reach him, you needed an intermediary. You needed a building of stone, leather-bound books, and rituals passed down through centuries. They told you that you needed men in robes, men who had learned the ancient languages, standing between your aching heart and heaven. They were the gatekeepers. They held the keys. And for 2,000 years, most of humanity believed it. We believed that the divine was something to be given to us, not something that was already in us. But here is what they didn't tell you. Jesus, he never said that. In fact, he warned us against that exact system. Imagine this moment. Jesus looks at the religious authorities of his time, the very ones claiming to hold the keys, and he says something that should have shaken the foundation of every institution that came after him. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. Did you hear that? Read it again. They shut the door, not because the door was locked, not because God was distant or unreachable. They shut the door by convincing people that only they had the key. And that lie, that ancient, strategic deception, became the cornerstone of organized religion. It turned seekers into dependents. It turned the divine into a bureaucracy. It turned the living kingdom of God into a franchise. But Jesus came to restore something that was never supposed to be mediated. He came to reveal a secret so simple, so direct, so threatening to institutional power, that it had to be buried, mistranslated, and reframed for centuries. He came to teach you how to speak to God directly, not through confession booths, not through Sunday services, not through prayers written by committees and recited from books, but through the living chamber within you, the one that has always been there, waiting, the one they told you didn't exist. And tonight, you are going to remember how to use it, because when Jesus said, and you've heard this verse your whole life, when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret. He wasn't talking about architecture. He was giving you the key to the kingdom, and that door was never outside of you. For most of your life, you probably thought this verse was about finding a quiet place to kneel, a bedroom, a closet, somewhere private where you wouldn't be disturbed. And yes, physical solitude helps, but that's not what he meant. Because if Jesus was only talking about geography, then anyone with a locking door could reach God. And you and I both know it doesn't work like that. You've been in rooms. You've closed doors. You've whispered prayers into the silence. And sometimes nothing came back. So what was he really saying? The room he's describing is not made of wood or stone. It is the inner chamber of consciousness itself, the sacred space within you where the noise of the world cannot enter, where thought dissolves, where identity softens, where the small self steps aside and something infinite opens. This is the place mystics have called by 100 names, the inner temple, the heart's altar, the still point, the secret place of the Most High. And Jesus is telling you that this chamber exists within you right now. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, actually. But here's the part most people miss. You have to close the door. And the door he's talking about is not physical. It is the door of outward awareness. When you pray with your attention still hooked into the external world, still thinking about tomorrow's to-do list, still rehearsing yesterday's argument, still performing for an imagined audience, you are standing outside the room, knocking. But the Father is not out there. He is in secret, hidden, unseen, interior. To meet him, you must turn inward. You must close the door on the outer world, not by rejecting it, but by withdrawing your awareness from it, even for a moment. You must enter the chamber where there are no words, no images, no agenda, just presence, just breath, just the quiet hum of being alive. Let's do that now. If you need to pause this, close your eyes, take one slow breath in and let it out. Feel the physical room you're in, the temperature, the sounds. Now, feel the room within you. Notice that behind all the thoughts, behind all the noise, there is a stillness that was here before you started thinking this morning. That stillness, that is the room. And when you rest there, even for 3 seconds, you are praying in the way Jesus described, not with words, but with presence. Open your eyes when you're ready. You just crossed the threshold, but this is just the beginning. You're in the room. You've closed the door. But how do you talk? Most people think prayer is talking, asking, pleading, listing needs. But what Jesus taught was not repetition. It was alignment. Listen to how he prayed. Not my will, but yours be done. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Do you see what's happening? He's not trying to change God's mind. He's synchronizing his own will with the divine current. He's tuning his inner frequency to match the frequency of heaven. And when that alignment happens, when your will and God's will become one vibration, that is when miracles occur. That is when healing flows. That is when clarity descends. Because prayer, in its truest form, is not a transmission to God. It is a resonance with God. That is when the impossible becomes inevitable. Because prayer in its truest form is not a transmission to God. It is a resonance with God. It is the moment the small, trembling wave of your consciousness merges back into the ocean of divine presence, and you realize, perhaps for the first time, that you were never separate. This is the lost technology. The ancients understood it. The mystics practiced it. The saints embodied it. But somewhere along the Gethsemane, it was replaced. It was replaced with scripts, with rituals, with repetition. Beautiful, perhaps. Comforting, certainly. But they are secondary. They are the echo, not the voice. Because the real prayer, the prayer that moves mountains, happens in a sacred space where you and the Father are no longer two voices in a conversation, but one breath, one heartbeat, one living word. Jesus even gave us a map to this place. He said, "Again, truly I tell you that if two of you on earth agree about anything they ask for, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where two or three gather in my name, there am I with them." We have always been told this was about gathering in a building. 2 people, 3 people. But what if the 2 he meant were closer? What if the 2 that must agree are your mind and your heart? What if the 2 are your outer self and your inner self, finally coming into alignment? Let's feel that now. Place one hand on your heart. Breathe slowly. And as you breathe, imagine your mind, all its noise, all its analytics, all its fear, descending, not as a master, but as a pilgrim, flowing down from your head into the chamber of your heart. Feel them unite, not as 2 separate things, but as one current, one presence, flowing home. Let the rhythm of your breath become the rhythm of heaven, in and out, until the inner and the outer feel like one single pulse. Stay there, just for a moment. This is the place where prayers are not spoken. They are lived. So, you've entered the room. You've closed the door. You've aligned your will with the divine current. But now comes the question, the one most of us are terrified to ask. Does God actually speak back? And if he does, how do you know it's him? Because let's be honest, your mind is loud. It's a storm of memories, anxieties, random song lyrics, old voices of parents and teachers, conditioning, and fear. So how, in all of that noise, do you differentiate the voice of God from the voice of your own imagination? Here's the truth. Most of the time, you can't. Not at first. Because God doesn't usually speak in thunder. He doesn't write on the wall in fire. He speaks in what the prophet Elijah called a still, small voice. And that voice is so quiet, so gentle, so interior, that it is almost indistinguishable from your own deepest knowing. In fact, perhaps it is your deepest knowing. Because when you go deep enough into the silence, past the chatter, past the doubt, past the fear, you begin to notice something. There is a presence there. Not a person, not a separate entity standing across from you, but a kind of awareness. An awareness that feels older than you, wiser than you, and more loving than you ever thought possible. And sometimes that awareness responds, not in words, not always, but in guidance, in a sudden, unshakable peace, in a wave of clarity that descends upon you and solves a problem you've wrestled with for months. It responds in the way a knot of anxiety inside your chest simply loosens, with no logical explanation. You have felt this before. Maybe you were walking alone in nature, and a thought dropped into your mind, fully formed. It was clear, calm, unmistakable, and you knew. You just knew. It wasn't manufactured by you. Maybe you were in a moment of deep crisis, weeping, and suddenly a wave of peace washed through you that had no logical source. A peace that said, all is well. Maybe you asked a question in the quiet of your heart, and the answer arrived 3 days later, in a form you could never have predicted. That is the voice. And the more you practice this stillness, the more you learn to recognize its signature, its frequency, because God doesn't shout over the noise. He waits in the silence. And when you meet him there, the conversation is no longer one-sided. It becomes communion, two-way, living, real. Let's try it. Right now, close your eyes again, place your hand on your chest, and whisper, either out loud or silently in your heart, the ancient words, "Speak, Lord, for your servant listens." Then wait. Don't force anything. Don't search for words. Don't hunt for a sign. Just listen. Just be. For 5 seconds. Did you feel it? Even if you didn't hear words, you felt something. A shift, a softness, a drop in temperature, a sense of being held. That is the beginning of the conversation. That is the voice. And if this is stirring something in you, breathe with it for a moment. You are not the only one feeling this call. There are others remembering, too. When one heart awakens, another feels it. Every small act of acknowledgement sends the current further. You are part of that now. Now let's talk about how this works. Because what Jesus demonstrated wasn't mysticism for its own sake. It was a technology, a repeatable, trainable, embodied practice that anyone could learn. And the key to it, again, was resonance. Think about how Jesus moved through the world. He healed the sick. He calmed storms. He spoke truth that cut through centuries of lies. He raised the dead. And when people asked him how he did it, he didn't say, "Because I'm special and you're not." He said, "The Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Father doing." In other words, everything he did came from alignment, from living in perfect, unbroken resonance with the divine frequency. He wasn't performing miracles through force of will. He was allowing miracles by tuning his inner state to the same vibration as heaven. And here is what most people have missed for 2,000 years. You have that same capacity, not because you are divine in the small, egoic sense, but because the divine is in you. That is the entire point of what he taught. The kingdom of God is within you. The Father and I are one. You will do even greater things than these. He wasn't speaking to a special class of enlightened beings. He was speaking to you. He was speaking to anyone willing to tune their inner instrument, to stop begging and start tuning, to adjust the vibration of their heart until it matches the vibration of the source. And when that resonance happens, you don't have to beg for anything. You become a conduit, a living extension of divine will. That is the hidden power of resonance. When you witness this light and you affirm it, the vibration multiplies. Each heart that returns to this frequency adds to a greater field. This is how the Christ awakens again, through us, together. So when you pray, don't just recite words. Tune. Feel the resonance between your breath and the breath that breathed all things into being. Feel the coherence between your heartbeat and the rhythm of creation. And when you find that frequency, when you lock into that current, you will know. You will know because the peace that surpasses all understanding will flood you. And the voice you have been listening for will no longer feel distant. It will feel like home. Now, we come to the heart of it, the part that changes everything. Because what Jesus was teaching wasn't just a method of prayer. It was an invitation into union. Listen to his final prayer before the crucifixion. He's standing in the garden. He knows what's about to happen. And he prays this. My prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message. He's praying for you, that all of them may be one. Father, just as you are in me and I am in you, may they also be in us. I have given them the glory that you gave me, that they may be one as we are one. I in them and you in me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. Read that slowly, that they may be one as we are one. Not similar, not close, not connected. One. This is not a metaphor. This is the entire purpose of everything he taught. The goal of direct communion with God is not to have a conversation with someone far away. It is to realize that you were never separate to begin with. You are not talking to God. You are talking within God. You are a wave in an infinite ocean, mistaking yourself for something isolated and small. But when you enter the inner chamber, when you close the door, when you descend into the silence, the illusion of separation dissolves. And what remains is the truth. You and the Father are one, not because you've achieved something, but because you've remembered something. You've remembered that the life breathing through you is the exact same life that spoke the stars into being. You've remembered that the awareness looking out through your eyes is the exact same awareness that dreamed all of creation into form. You've remembered that the love you have been longing for, the love you've been searching for in other people, in achievements, in religion, is not outside you, waiting to be earned. It is what you are made of. And when you rest in that knowing, even for a moment, everything changes. The entire dynamic of prayer is rewritten. You are no longer praying as a beggar at the gates of a king, pleading for scraps. You are no longer an orphan, hoping to be noticed. You are praying as a child in the arms of the Father, as a branch, drawing life directly from the vine, as a cell, living within the very body of Christ. You are praying from union, not for union. And from that place, from that knowing, miracles are not extraordinary. They are natural. They are not exceptions to the rule. They are the rule itself. Because when you live in union with the source, you stop begging for the impossible. You become a vessel for it. Let's feel that, not as a concept, but as a living reality. Close your eyes, just one more time. Breathe deeply. And as you breathe, just for this moment, let go of the idea that you are separate from God. Allow yourself to feel what it would be like if the divine wasn't outside you, watching you, judging you, but was the very essence of your being. The breath in your lungs, the beat of your heart, the awareness behind your thoughts. Feel it. The life that is breathing you is God. The intelligence that is hearing these words is God. The love you've been searching for is God, experiencing itself as you. You are not alone. You have never been alone. You are held. You are known. You are loved. You are one with the infinite. Open your eyes. You just tasted heaven. It wasn't in the sky. It was in your chest. And those who are meant to walk this path will feel that. You already know who you are. So here we are. You've journeyed from the great silencing to the living union. You've learned that the room is within you. You've learned that the door you must close is not physical, but the door of outward attention. You have discovered that prayer is not repetition, but resonance. You have felt the still, small voice in the silence. You have tuned your heart to the frequency of heaven, and you have tasted, even if for a moment, the profound truth that you and the Father are one. Now, let's come full circle. Remember where we started? They told you that you needed a middleman. They told you that communion with God required priests, rituals, buildings, and translations. They shut the door of the kingdom in your face. But now you know the truth. The door was never shut. It was just hidden in plain sight, right inside you. And every time you return to that inner chamber, every time you close the door on the noise of the world and rest in the silence, you are doing what Jesus taught. You are communing directly with the Father. No intermediary, no institution, no permission needed. Just you and the infinite. Just breath and presence. Just love meeting itself. This is the kingdom he spoke of. Not a place in the sky you go to after you die, but a living reality, a frequency, accessible within you right now. And the more you practice this, the more you return to the silence, the more you tune your heart to this divine frequency, the more you will realize something that will change everything. The veil was never between you and God. The veil was only ever between you and yourself. The moment you stopped searching outside and turned within, the search ended. God was never lost. You were, and now you are found. So, let's seal this together. One last time. Close your eyes. Place both hands over your heart and feel that presence, the one that has been with you this entire time, the presence that was there before you were born, the presence that will remain when this body falls away, the presence that is the real you when all the masks are removed. And silently, from the deepest part of your being, offer this prayer, not to a distant God, but to the God within. Thank you for never leaving, for waiting in the silence, for being closer than my own breath. I remember now. I remember who I am. I remember where you are. And I am home. Open your eyes. You just spoke to God directly, not through doctrine, not through ritual, but through the living communion of presence. And here's the prophecy I leave you with. If this teaching, these words, found you, it was not by accident. You were called to remember. And those who remember, find each other. Keep listening. Keep returning to the room within. The more of us who remember this, the brighter the field becomes. This is how heaven expands. Not by force, but by remembrance. Through those who share what awakened them. When you carry this teaching forward, even silently in your own heart, you become part of the prophecy itself. Light passing from voice to voice. Every time you affirm this truth, you are a ripple in the living word. You are a way of saying, I remember. And when you offer your light back, in whatever form you can, you help another soul hear the call. Those who are meant to awaken will find these words through you. So leave your light here. If you felt heaven move within you, it is more than just a passing feeling. It is participation in the great remembering. Go in peace. Go in silence. Go in the living presence of the Christ within. The door is open, and you know the way. Before you return to the noise of the world, I want to show you something. What we've shared tonight is the key, but there are deeper writings, things we have kept hidden from the public, lost keys, ancient prayers, lost sayings, and living codes. We call them the sacred scrolls. They are not for everyone. They are for those who have begun to feel the veil thinning. They are for those who know, deep in their bones, that there is more to the words of Jesus than what was preached from pulpits. Each scroll carries a piece of what was once whispered in secret, teachings meant to awaken the Christ within, to help you hear the voice that still speaks in the silence. If you are ready to go beyond belief and into direct experience, this is where your next step begins. You will find the link to the scrolls in the description or pinned in the comment section. And for those who feel alone on this path, we have a private sanctuary, a place where the hidden ones gather, remember, and share what heaven is revealing in this time. Inside, seekers study the ancient words together. They decode the hidden meanings, and they remind each other that they are not crazy. They are waking up. It is quiet, it is real, and it is filled with the same light that led you here tonight. Both are waiting for you below. Those who are meant to find them always do.